This individual's fortune was built through decades of business ventures and investments, accumulating assets across multiple industries. The decision to conceal wealth often stems from complex psychological factors including paranoia, distrust, and a desire for absolute control. Physical concealment methods like burial represent an extreme approach compared to more common offshore accounts or shell companies. Such actions typically follow a pattern of increasing isolation and secrecy, often alienating even close associates over time. The logistics of burying substantial wealth require careful planning regarding location security and access mechanisms. This case reflects a broader pattern, where extreme wealth protection measures can ultimately create more vulnerabilities than they prevent. The psychological impact on family members discovering such concealment often involves profound betrayal and legal complications. Similar cases in financial investigation history show how extreme concealment methods frequently fail over extended periods. This case exemplifies how extreme wealth accumulation can fundamentally alter personal dynamics. The individual's journey typically spans decades, involving high-stakes entrepreneurship or complex investment strategies. Such prolonged financial success can create an environment where normal relationship boundaries become blurred. The immense resources available can lead to dependencies or power imbalances within personal and professional circles. This distortion is a documented psychological pattern observed in cases of sudden or extreme wealth. The resulting personal crisis often stems from conflicts between immense financial power and human emotional needs. These scenarios are rare because they require the convergence of significant wealth accumulation and specific relational vulnerabilities. The actions that follow can appear irrational when viewed through the lens of ordinary financial or social conduct. The immense fortune created not external threats, but internal fractures within the family itself. A growing sense of entitlement among relatives led to constant financial demands and escalating tensions. The looming fear of protracted legal battles over the estate's distribution created an atmosphere of siege for the individual in control. Feeling trapped by these familial pressures and desperate to maintain authority, the individual sought a drastic solution. The plan went beyond typical asset concealment, like complex trusts or offshore accounts documented on paper. The objective was to physically remove assets from the financial system entirely, making them untraceable through conventional audits. This method represents an extreme form of asset protection, severing the official paper trail that connects wealth to its owner. Such actions, often involving high-value portable items, are typically driven by a profound distrust of institutions and even one's own kin. The fortune in question was largely liquid, making it fundamentally different from other types of wealth. This means we are not dealing with real estate or stock portfolios, which are typically difficult to move quickly. Liquid assets can be converted to cash with relative ease compared to physical property. This characteristic of the fortune presents unique challenges and opportunities in financial investigations. The mobility of liquid wealth allows for rapid movement across jurisdictions and financial systems. Investigators must track digital trails and banking records rather than physical property deeds. This type of wealth disappearance often involves complex financial networks rather than physical concealment. The liquid nature of the fortune fundamentally changes how such cases are investigated and understood. This wealth was in forms that could be converted to cash, precious metals, or other tangible assets. Such assets are considered highly liquid, meaning they can be quickly sold or exchanged without significant loss of value. This liquidity is what made the drastic plan possible. Financial liquidity provides immediate operational capability, unlike illiquid assets like real estate or specialized equipment. Second, the method was astonishingly physical. Unlike digital or financial crimes, this involved direct, hands-on manipulation of physical objects and spaces. The physical nature required strength, endurance, and direct confrontation with material barriers. This combination of financial liquidity and physical methodology created a uniquely executable criminal opportunity. The individual allegedly purchased secure, waterproof containers designed for long-term storage. Over time, they transported these containers to remote locations, suggesting careful logistical planning. The containers were then buried, a method used to conceal items from detection for extended periods. The scale of the operation indicates multiple burial sites, not just a single stash. This pattern of multiple caches is a known tactic to mitigate the risk of total discovery. The motivation behind these actions was clearly documented as stemming from familial pressure. Such pressure can be a powerful driver for secretive, high-stakes behavior in documented cases. The core conflict centered on a preemptive move against perceived threats of litigation and coercion. Relatives viewed the fortune as a shared resource to be claimed, creating significant financial pressure. This perception of entitlement is a common pattern in high-stakes inheritance disputes. The operation was conducted in complete secrecy, with no advance warning given. No family members, lawyers, or financial advisors were informed of the impending action. Such covert financial maneuvers often aim to secure assets before legal proceedings can begin. The decision to act preemptively reflects a strategic calculation to avoid protracted court battles. This case illustrates how the fear of coercion can drive drastic, secretive financial measures. The individual acted alone, a fact that becomes critical later in the investigation. This solitary nature of the act is a common pattern in certain types of financial concealment cases. Fifth, and most crucially, the individual passed away unexpectedly. Such an unforeseen death is a known risk factor that can permanently alter the trajectory of an investigation. This event transformed the act of hiding the wealth from a temporary safeguard into a permanent loss. The mechanism here is clear. Without the sole individual's knowledge, the concealed assets become effectively irretrievable. This creates a definitive endpoint, contrasting with cases where hidden assets are later recovered through continued inquiry. The permanent loss underscores a critical vulnerability in schemes reliant entirely on one person's continued existence and cooperation. The secret died with them. This marks the boundary between documented evidence and subsequent interpretation. A common error in similar investigations is the assumption of a linear, solvable puzzle left behind. There is no detailed map or a sequential series of clues leading to the objective. This absence of a clear trail is a frequent pattern in unresolved cases where primary sources are lost. The investigation reaches its factual limits here, where verifiable information concludes. This lack of documentation is common in cases involving hidden assets or unreported wealth. Without written records, investigators must rely on secondary evidence, like financial patterns or witness recollections. The destruction of records can occur intentionally to conceal activities or accidentally through natural decay. This creates a significant investigative gap, as physical evidence becomes the primary source of information. When only estimates exist, they're typically calculated using known transaction patterns or comparable cases. This evidentiary void means some truths may remain permanently inaccessible, known only to those no longer living. The reported $100 million valuation is a rough estimate, not a confirmed figure. The actual contents of the collection remain a complete mystery to this day. Their current condition is unknown, with no recent documentation available. This situation is often misinterpreted as a clever deception or strategic maneuver. Some narratives incorrectly frame it as a revenge plot against specific parties. In reality, such high-value collections often involve complex ownership histories. Comparable cases show that reported valuations can differ significantly from actual market values. The lack of verification makes definitive conclusions about the collection impossible. Estate planning failures often stem from short-term thinking rather than deliberate malice. These decisions create irreversible consequences that become apparent only in hindsight. The catastrophic outcome reveals how desperate measures can override long-term planning. Such cases demonstrate the importance of proper legal structures in preventing tragedy. The unknown legal aftermath highlights how these situations often leave unresolved questions. This pattern shows how estate issues can escalate from administrative problems to human tragedies. The absence of public records regarding official searches or insurance claims creates a significant information gap. This lack of transparency is common in cases involving financial loss, where privacy laws often restrict disclosure. Similarly, the status of any tax authority investigations remains unclear to the public. Such investigations typically operate under strict confidentiality until formal charges are filed. Consequently, the narrative exists primarily within the realm of reported personal tragedy. This focus shifts the emphasis from procedural details to the human impact of financial devastation. The case thus offers practical lessons that extend beyond its initial sensational framing. These lessons often involve patterns of trust, due diligence, and the vulnerabilities in financial systems. Estate planning tools like trusts and wills are designed to manage complex family dynamics and wealth distribution under controlled legal terms. These legal instruments provide clear succession plans that prevent ambiguity and conflict among heirs. Without such planning, wealth distribution becomes vulnerable to family disputes and legal challenges. Transparent estate planning establishes legal boundaries that protect assets and relationships. Bypassing this system entirely guarantees chaos, as seen in numerous documented cases of inheritance disputes. The primary lesson remains clear. Proper legal planning is necessary to manage complex dynamics and prevent predictable conflicts. The psychological impact of sudden wealth is well documented in clinical literature. This phenomenon, sometimes called sudden wealth syndrome, creates genuine psychological burdens. The isolation stems from changed social dynamics and difficulty relating to previous peer groups. Paranoia often develops from increased visibility, security concerns, and fear of exploitation. Family relationships can deteriorate as financial dynamics shift traditional roles and expectations. This pattern appears across lottery winners, inheritance recipients, and successful entrepreneurs. The burden manifests as anxiety disorders, depression, and relationship breakdowns in documented cases. Psychological research shows wealth can create barriers to authentic human connection and trust. This financial opacity creates a single point of failure, where one individual holds all access and control. It is a system where every asset is placed at extreme risk, vulnerable to loss, mismanagement, or exploitation. This pattern is not unique. It mirrors vulnerabilities seen in poorly structured businesses or trusts. The mechanism is simple: concentration of power without oversight or redundancy. In contrast, secure financial management involves distributed knowledge and multiple authorized parties. The danger is absolute, making professional counsel for both psychology and finance a critical defense. Institutions and documented processes provide security that a secret hole in the ground does not. Formal systems create accountability and durability through records, protocols, and oversight. This is not a treasure hunt story. It is a cautionary tale about how the desire to protect something can lead to its total loss. This pattern is observed in cases where overprotection through secrecy or isolation backfires, removing the very safeguards that could have preserved the item. Furthermore, it shows how family conflict, left to fester without mediation, can drive people to make decisions that help no one in the end. Unresolved disputes often escalate, leading to actions motivated by spite, control, or fear rather than collective benefit. The final outcome serves no one, resulting in the permanent loss of what everyone initially sought to keep. The real tragedy isn't the buried fortune, but the broken relationships and the irreversible finality of that choice. This pattern appears in many true crime cases, where financial obsession leads to isolation. The psychological mechanism involves prioritizing material wealth over human bonds, creating a destructive feedback loop. Unlike fictional treasure hunts, real cases show how the pursuit itself damages relationships irreparably. The finality comes from actions that cannot be undone, even if the fortune is eventually found. Documentary evidence often reveals how trust erodes long before the physical search begins. This dynamic mirrors patterns in financial crime investigations, where greed destroys social networks. The irreversible choice represents a psychological point of no return in these real-world narratives.